This hot chocolate is good, but it's not enough to warm me up here. It's so cold in here.
I know.
Sabrosura pa' ti que.
Hola manis, welcome back to Café con Pam, donde compartimos our stories con un cafecito. Yo soy Pam, and we bring you stories from first-generation Latinas, people of the global majority, people doing amazing things. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, ring the bell, do all the things so you never miss our cafecito time. And of course, for more incredible stories, tune into the podcast también. El día de hoy tenemos una conversación with George Torres. George is the founder of Siembra Connect, a bilingual platform dedicated to helping creators of color grow sustainable, purpose-driven businesses. Through storytelling, coaching, and culturally rooted resources, George guides creators in building visibility with intención, centered on financial clarity, mental health, and community collaboration. At the heart of his work is a simple belief: you don't have to go viral to make a living. You just need a clear message, a strong foundation, and the courage to be seen. Siembra Connect offers a free newsletter, digital tools, and one-on-one cultivation calls to help creators audit their platforms, align their voice, and amplify their impact. La misión de Jorge, la misión de George, is to end the era of gatekeeping and the era of gatekeeping by sharing what he learns in real time and helping creators plant the seeds of their own legacy. All right. This conversation was in person, so I would love to know what you think about the setup, because I'm scrappy. I'm proud of it. I love that Café con Pam started with a microphone from a retired rapper, and here we are with some tools, but not extra. I feel like I'm extra by having a mobile studio, but I would love to know what you think about the setup and how does it work for you to kind of like see the various angles. And I know because we are using professional tools, the sound is great, but I'm curious about the viewing of the interview. And the conversation with George was amazing. We talked obviously a lot during the interview, and we talked after, and we visited, and I've known George for a long time. We met at an event, and we talk about it during the interview, but it was great to connect and know that we met in San Diego as he traveled to San Diego. It was really cool to actually hear from someone and be like, "Hey, I'm in your town. I'm in your side of the world. Would love to meet up and do something." And we made it happen, which is so cool. And I love what he's doing and his passion for helping, and it's great to connect with people who have that type of alignment and growth mindset and not gatekeeping resources, because el sol sale para todos, ¿no? Entonces, bueno, ya me callo para que puedas escuchar la conversación with George Torres. Bueno, George, welcome to Café con Pam. How are you?
I am excited to be here in San Diego, excited to be here with you.
We made it in person.
We finally made it in person. This is a long time coming. Cheers. Let me get my cafecito.
Sí,
Cheers.
gracias. So, you've been someone that's been in this creator business for a long time. How does it feel to see what's happening right now in the creator space?
It's exciting. Just the other day, I was talking to a friend, and we had just gotten some numbers in from the superpowers that tabulate all the different numbers in the world, right? And the latest numbers are that the creator economy is currently sitting at about $250 billion.
Wow.
$250 billion, and it's poised to double in the next 2 years. So we're talking about $480 billion industry.
Okay.
And that kind of like puts us into focus as to why we exist, is because we have to be positioned to make sure that the creator gets their fair share of that.
So, being that you're someone who is kind of like filled all the roles, from creator to someone who would hire a creator to the back end of a brand and the branding of it. What's your favorite role of those?
Creator.
Yeah.
Which is why I reverted back now. Like me being in this space now is allowing me to be creative without any barriers, any constraints. So it's going back to basics, but now with a purpose, right? So now it's not just creating for me to get the likes and the shares and whatever brand deals. Now it's about me helping other creators figure out the blueprint.
And what were the top 3 things that if someone who is like literally watching this, like they've been thinking about becoming a creator, what were the top 3 things you would tell them?
So it depends. Are we talking about creating, or are we talking about the business of creating? Because that's where
Let's
the disconnect
break that
is.
down.
So right now, so we're gonna talk stats again, okay?
Yes.
So right now, there's over 200 million creators currently in the creator sphere, and out of all of those people, less than 4% are making a full-time income.
So creators meaning someone who would charge for their content.
Somebody who creates content that is looking to somehow monetize, whether it be through platform, whether it be through their personal business endeavors or digital products or speaking engagements or books or whatever.
Okay, so it's a broad spectrum.
It's a very broad space. A lot of people who don't even think they're creators are creators.
Right.
We're in a space now that people are going from being or wanting to be a social media influencer, right? Using the influencer title for a minute. They come into the space thinking that they could smile because they're good looking or because they have 1 or 2 really smart things to say that they could just monetize that. And once upon a time, that was true. Like when you first started, like when the early versions of Facebook, MySpace even, mijente.com, like when all those platforms were around, that was kind of true. You know, you could do the bare minimum and be considered an influencer.
Yeah.
But now with all the competition, with 200 million people in the space,
it's a lot.
You have to do what you have to do to stand out. And that requires a certain level of business acumen, financial literacy.
Yes.
And the way that the world is going right now, the emotional labor that goes into creating mental health, you know.
Yeah.
You have to have a very good mental health hygiene system in place in order for you to deal with all the stresses of being a creator, trying to run a business without a blueprint, without the background, without the support sometimes, you know, and not knowing what your goals are. The clarity is a big piece.
So creator and being in the business of creators, 2 different things.
Yeah, unfortunately. Because everybody creates, right? There's nobody, like any child that draws like a little character.
Creator. Yes.
You're creating. Everybody creates things. The world is full of things that somebody imagined. And the business of creator is, how do you become visible? How do you become known in the space for what it is that you do? What is the quality of what you do? How does it impact people? I'm all about impact. So there are creators out there that have nothing to do with, they're just purely entertainment.
Yes.
And that's great. And those people are necessary in the world.
Yeah.
I tend to work with people who are more people who want to change the world, the change makers, the community builders, the activists, the teachers, the educators. Those are the people that I really want to work with because I think that they have a deeper footing in what happens next.
So there's 200 million creators. The creator economy is $200 billion as well?
No, it's 250 billion right now.
250 billion.
As of this year, and it's poised to hit 480 billion by 2027.
Okay.
So 2 years is going to double.
Okay. And so you mentioned that there's a lot of people that don't even think they're creators. And because there's no blueprint, it's a lot of times, is it true that people become creators out of like going viral?
No, I don't think so.
Not always?
I think that going viral is such a sore subject for me, and I'll tell you why later.
Talk about it.
We'll dig into that. We'll dig into that. I think that if we go back to it, people create because they feel that there's something missing in the world. Like, you know, I write poetry because I feel like there are words that need to be said. There's a story that needs to be told. So that's why I create poetry. But when you put the culture now of the social media influencer into the mix, now it puts people in a position where I want more likes. I want more people to see what I'm doing. But they don't have a plan. They don't know what that means.
Correct.
They don't know what the impact is going to be. I could say, I make a great cup of coffee. Come to my coffee shop. If I went viral, can I handle 10,000 people
Correct.
outside of my door? No. So is it worth it?
That's where the creator business comes in.
That's where the creative business comes in. So it's like, you know, like matching, aligning your, you know, we have a framework. So let's talk about the framework. Maybe I'll put it into perspective. We audit what it is that we're doing and what our capabilities are. We align it with the purpose of what we're creating, and then we amplify it. So we do that. I apply that framework. It was like my 3 words a couple of years back, and I created a workshop. It sold out every time.
Nice.
I put together a couple of handouts. I did a carousel that kind of like explains it or whatever. And now it's like the foundation. If you're going to work with me, we have to go through audit, align, and amplify before we do anything. So in order for a creator to create and feel satisfied, there has to be sustainability. Okay? I can't work a 9 to 5 every day.
Right.
Spend 5 or 6 hours creating a comic book, for example, and then get nothing from it.
Yeah.
Like nobody
won't
sees
feel
it. I don't sell it, and meanwhile I'm subsidizing it with my rent money, and I'm going out there. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
So people who create, they need some kind of reward bigger than just the dopamine rush. They need something that's deeper for them to be able to be sustainable, for them to continue to create and grow as a creator.
Right.
And again, you don't have to be a creator making money. The business piece is solely optional. I wrote poetry for 20, 30 years before I ever went
Monetized
someplace
it.
and actually said poetry for for a check,
Yes.
performed. So it's like, okay, so now
So you have to understand why you do it.
you have to understand why you're doing it. You have to understand. Why you're doing it. You have to understand what you would like to see come of it. So if it's a paycheck and it's solely a paycheck, then that's fine. If it's you're trying to reach a certain amount of people for a certain type of social change, you have to know what it is.
But it's powerful to understand why you want to do what you do and then decide if you want to attach money to it or not.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with it. And I think that specifically in the Latino community, we sometimes feel challenged with that thought process, right? It's like, I don't want to sell out.
Right.
I'm not doing this for the money, like como si fuera malo,
Right.
And I don't think it is. I don't personally think it is. I made a living for the last,
Yeah.
I would say, I've been in, my career is 28, but it took me about 10 years to monetize, honestly. I didn't really monetize till Twitter came on the scene.
Oh,
And I monetized with a couple of 100 followers.
okay.
So it's one of those things. It's like you don't have to go viral.
And you don't need
And you
millions
don't
of followers.
No. You just need people who really dig what you're doing and that are willing to pull out of their pocket to support you.
Which would bring it back to the why.
Yeah.
Now, if you have clarity about why you do it and who you do it for,
Yeah.
then people will come.
I started a blog. The blog was specifically my poetry. It started off as my poetry and it grew on its own. It became its own thing. So it went from poetry to me sharing my poetry, to me sharing somebody else's poetry, to me now advertising poetry readings, to doing a poetry conference, to creating a poetry platform years down the line, and then a school of poetic arts that me and my partner, are trying to develop. So it's like it has every project that I worked on has its own trajectory, and it has a life of its own. Siembra Connect, which is what I'm talking about today, is a newsletter that kind of shares my life experience. It shares my love for the content creator space. It shares the gate-kept information that we consistently are looking for, but nobody wants to give us because they don't want us to compete with them.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to dismantle that. I'm trying to dismantle the hustle culture, Like it's all about mindfulness and, going into the content creation business with a healthy mental hygiene routine. Just go in there, just really like enjoy what you're doing, make it sustainable, but also like take care of yourself. Like before, because you can't do anything for anybody until you take care of yourself.
Agreed, 100%. So what would you say to, now let's talk about the audience piece, because I think being a Latina creator, and probably you attract a lot of Latinos también, there's this unsaid expectation that we need to be cheap. Like I've heard it from people like, oh, you're too expensive. But I'm like, it actually happened to me where I was like, wait a minute. So I launched a product, and I typically do sliding scale because that's just who I am, right? So like, this is the price point. If you need to pay less, this is the minimum, but you can like slide it up and down depending on what you can pay. And somebody paid for the lowest tier possible. And I was like, that's right. I don't judge. I don't ask for nothing. But then I was in a different program with a white coach. And like, that was a lot of money that I chose to invest in myself. That person was there. And so I was like, wait, so if you can pay that, why did you choose to pay my lowest tier? And so then I went into this like trying to dig and understand, and came up with one of the many potential instances. I mean, of course, it could be like my reputation as well, but like the expectation of if I buy from Latinos, it needs to be cheap.
Yeah.
Could be a belief.
We're supposed to hook you up.
Right.
I don't believe in that. I don't believe in that for so many reasons, but I'll tell you a story. I used to do this media cultivation type of event, Twitter parties. I don't know if you remember Twitter parties. And I did these Twitter parties back in the days, and I got paid by a company that I was affiliated with at the time. And I got paid pretty well. I mean, for a creator, like, $500, $600 an hour sounds like sweet, right?
Yeah.
So one day, my client reaches out to me and says, this movie's coming out. I'm not gonna say any of the identifiers, just not identify the project, but this movie's coming out, and we really wanna do the party, but we can't. Can you just take the lead? And we'll connect you directly with the client and,
With the movie people.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we'll connect you with the client and, make it happen. So I'm okay, I'm like excited or whatever, but they turn around and say, but they don't have a big budget.
But it's a movie.
Okay, so I'm like, okay. So I'm thinking to myself, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Am I doing this for $200 an hour? Like,
Right.
what does it mean?
Right.
The client says, we don't have a big budget. I said, okay, well, tell me what you could pay, and we can modify the project accordingly.
Right.
Because that's one big thing about me right now. I no longer say no based on dollar amount. We just modify the deliverables.
We do less.
And I'll let you know what I could do for what you're
Totally.
asking. And it may just be show up to the meeting, right?
Yeah.
So the number was a 5-figure number, which means that the company that used to hire me to do it, that's what they were making. They were making more than that and paying me $500 an hour.
OMG.
You see what I'm saying? And that to me was eye-opening. And then like now I'm flipping out because I'm like, this is a big check.
Yeah.
We got to figure this out. We got to do this the right way, like whatever. So I picked the best 2 creators that I'm working with all the time. I'm like on tour with them. We're doing like road trips together. We do like Best Western, Toyota, like stuff. So I call these girls up and I say, listen, I told them the same thing. I actually told them, I was like, I got this Twitter party or whatever. It's not with the brand that we normally work with, but this is what it is. They don't really have a big budget. And she's like, oh, like, what is it, whatever. And then obviously I gassed them. What I decided to do was I decided to split the money 3 ways.
Nice.
So we were partners in this project.
Nice.
We did it, and I wanted them to be super invested, but I also wanted them to see the potential
Totally.
of what is possible if you just take the initiative to connect with clients and actually offer them what you're capable of doing. So I don't believe in reducing my worth. However, Siembra is a very grassroots project. It started out that way. It started out with me giving free coaching for almost a year and a half during COVID.
Wow.
So that's how it started. That's the roots of it. However, my framework for the business side of Siembra is it's free to learn, but you pay to grow. And what that really means is you could learn everything that I teach, but you're learning at my pace and at the rhythm that I feel like creating.
Yeah.
But if you need my time and attention to get you where you need to go right away, then we do the deep dive.
Nice.
We do a deep dive. I currently offer a deep dive for like a little bit under $800. It's a 4-hour session where we literally work through it. So I'm not only working on the strategy with you, I'm actually teaching you how to do it. So technically you could do it yourself. If you pay attention and if you're that kind of learner,
right,
you could actually figure out, like, if I use this framework, I could do this with it. I could apply this to anything. So I'm teaching you, and I think that that's for a small creator. I think that if you really want to succeed and you really know what you're missing, and I really address that piece of it through your interactions with the newsletter, I think it works.
Well, and I think something important that you said is, one, the number of followers is a metric that doesn't always matter.
Doesn't mean anything anymore.
Right. And two, you don't have to go viral to be able to make money.
No. You have been doing podcasts for how long now?
For 9 years. We're turning 9 this year.
You're turning 9 this year. So as much work as you put into your podcast and as many like audience members you have and people who download and people who follow you and just like the behind the scenes and whatever, all of those people, somebody can come out with a podcast tomorrow and outflank you.
Yeah.
And it doesn't even have to be better creative than you. It doesn't have to be, it could be raw and dirty they could outflank you. So we're in a different place right now. Gary Vaynerchuk talks a lot about the shift from social media to interest media. And that's the TikTok effect on what social media has done, right?
Yes.
So what's happened now is that people who are interested in your content don't really necessarily feel the need to follow you, but they like your content.
Yeah, they'll
and
come
because
back.
they're consuming it, then the algorithm is going to feed it to them.
Correct.
So they can see your content 10 times. There's people who I see 10, 12 times a week on my feed that I don't follow.
Correct.
But I like their content.
Yes.
And the reason why I don't follow them is because I just don't want alerts, right?
Yes.
That's my personal reason for not following them. But their content is great, and the algorithm serves me. So when you hear creators talk about the algorithm change and it sucks, no, it sucks because you're spending your time posting about how the algorithm sucks. So guess what? You just went into a dark corner of the web where nobody wants to talk to you or hear from you.
You haven't built your algorithm correctly.
Yeah. If you create stuff that people are interested in, if you do research, if you see what actually hooks people and adapt that to what you're realistically and authentically doing, then you'll be fine.
So what I'm hearing is you have to be intentional. You have to be mindful, and not just mindful from the lens of taking care of yourself, but also even taking care of your audience.
Yeah.
And the power of asking for help.
Yes. That piece is huge, because what people don't realize is when you commit to being a content creator, you're everything. Right now, we're sitting here in the middle of a hotel lobby, right? We're doing this interview. You are lights, you are camera, you are audio, you are the author, you're the person who created the show run.
I'm the host.
To run the show, you're the host. You had to put thought into the process of talking to me. You're all those things.
Yes.
And if this was a process that used to cost millions of dollars to produce, the quality of a podcast like yours used to cost millions of dollars to produce because you had union people and the cameras, and it was a set, and it was a whole thing.
Yes.
And then the medium was TV, so you had to buy your way into TV, right?
Correct.
So now we democratized this content, right? We have this easy way to be able to disseminate information, and now you stand on your own merit.
Yes.
It's a meritocracy.
Yes.
You have to be good at what you do to be able to stand out, and sometimes even if you're good, it doesn't mean that that's what people are looking for right now.
Correct. Because there's even podcasts that have come out with a lot bigger budgets, and people still come back to me.
Yeah.
Because I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't need a studio.
Yeah, and that's that ability to be mean and lean is why people think that you're not quote unquote worth it, because they're valuing you based on the old systems.
But
when
we're
we talk
dismantling
about
them.
when we talk about TV and radio, those are the conglomerates, right? But what do you see now? You see all the radio stations have podcasts. The DJs have podcasts. They're monetizing on the side. A lot of them use the radio to promote the
promote it,
fact
yes.
that they're doing that, and they monetize way more than what the radio station pays them.
Totally.
And I know because I worked in radio, a couple of years.
Yeah.
When I did my first podcast, I ended up producing stuff for Univision, and so I know firsthand like what that world looks like. And even TV's becoming the same way. You have
Yeah.
all these streaming services. You could start your own Netflix if you wanted to today. Vimeo just unleashed a new program where if you have a poetry, right? If you're a poet and you have a really cool friend, like a lot of friends that are poets, and you're constantly writing content or whatever, you can create a whole poetry channel on Vimeo. And you can monetize it yourself, and you could do deals directly with the brands. And
Let's go.
but the problem is right now, with the average creator, the nanos, the micro creators, is that all the platforms are really focusing on the ad revenue, but they're not focusing on creator support. They're not trying to build them into anything bigger than what they are.
And that's where you come in.
And that's where I come in. That's where I feel like, that's my sweet spot. I feel like, you know what? You can create a $5 ebook, sell 100,000 copies, and make more money than somebody who published a book with Simon & Schuster. And that's the reality. And
Yep.
I just turned down the book deal. I know this. I looked at the numbers and I'm like, but wait a minute. I have a lifetime community of like 250 to 300,000 people that follow me across all platforms over the last 20 something years. And no, it wasn't even that. It's not even that. It's just the way the deals are structured. The deal breaker for me wasn't the money or the cut. I actually really like the company. I think they're a great company. I had nothing bad to say about them. My deal breaker was the fact that they control this. They have the rights to sell my book or my likeness to like films and whatever for 80 years.
They keep your, wow.
80 is an 80-year term. And I'm not even going to be here 80 years from now. I would like to, but chances are I'm not going to be here. So that's going to be a burden that I'm going to put on my children.
So they can keep making money off of you without you.
Yeah. And that's the reason why I turned down the book deal. And I've never talked about this publicly at all.
That's
like the book deal was a big thing because I was very happy. I went through the whole proposal process. I went through everything. It was a very educational experience, but I realized I have enough people that
for
I would
you to make that money.
For me to make that money directly and take the lion's share of that profit.
That's wild.
So, yeah.
So tell us how, like, when Siembra Connect comes in the picture, because there's like, I almost see like a fan of potential people that are in your ecosystem, from brands to creators to the audience to the people that have known you for a long time. Who's the person that you want to talk to right now?
I want to just talk to the creators. I just want to talk to the creators. I've actually taken a step back from pitching and talking to brands. I'm going to talk to them eventually, but it's going to be for like a summit or a conference that I'll create for Siembra.
Nice.
So that's going to be my, like I said, I'm not really interested in, I've done a lot of great stuff with brands over the years. I have a great portfolio of work that I've done over especially the last 15 years.
Yeah.
Working with organizations like Hispanicize, that's where my roots are, right? I just want to build. I want to talk to creators. I want to understand what they need. And the thing with me is that I'm a little bit different. A lot of people want to master something. There's that perfection paralysis. I'm not going to do this until I know what I'm talking about. I know what I'm talking about when it comes to content creation. Content creation, I'm 10 out of 10, must recommend. Like, I'm definitely that.
Yes.
What I'm not, whatever I don't know, I'm completely comfortable bringing the person that I would choose to learn from into the room and learn with you.
Nice.
And that's kind of what makes me different than most coaches and visibility experts or whatever you want to call what I do, right? I am okay with telling you that I'm not 100%. Bring Pam in to talk to me about podcasting and learn from Pam. That's really,
for sure.
That's really what makes me different is that I don't feel the need to be the master of the conversation. I just want to set I want to build the stage. I want to build the stage, and I want to be able to moderate that conversation. I want to be able to make sure that the people that I'm serving get their needs met from that conversation. I had that part, on lock, but I don't necessarily have to be an expert. And I don't mind asking the questions that I don't know the answers to get the answer in a session,
And I think that's also an invite to the creators. You don't have to be an expert in the creator space.
Do it dirty. Do it dirty. I mean, I started my first podcast on Blog Talk Radio. Do you remember that? It just recently went out of business. I've just lost a bunch of my archives.
Dang.
I have them at home. I know I have them on some hard data somewhere, but I lost access to the actual feed. I also did a what was it, 360 online? Remember when 360 was a thing?
Probably.
So I partnered with a popular magazine at the time, and they had a radio station in Dumbo, and we moved the show from Blog Talk to there, which was the biggest mistake we made. Honestly.
Didn't work?
Well, it's not that it didn't work. It was a step up because we had the full studio experience and whatever. So on that, but that's what I'm talking about. Like doing it dirty, sometimes it's just better.
Yes.
Blog Talk, even though it wasn't a very popular, it wasn't super popular as a platform, they gave you the access to talk live to your people. And no other online radio company has been able to do what they did, which is surprising that they went out of business like 3 months ago.
Dang.
Yep.
Bummer.
And they had a long run there. I mean, I want to say that we started that station in 2007?
Wow.
2007, 2008. And it ran, I did 69 episodes with them. It ran 69 episodes and over a period of like maybe 4 or 5 years. And podcasting wasn't even called podcasting.
Right.
So that you know, that's the one thing about me. I don't mind trying things, you know. So
do you think they went out of business because they didn't update?
I just think, if I had to guess, I just think they never updated their platform. They were so animate about not being podcasters because it was live radio. I think
they got left behind.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's a big lesson.
I think it was a perception piece. I think they just didn't want to be called podcasters, and they missed the boat because podcasting is what's hot.
For sure.
So they, you know, and
it's another lesson.
And the thing is that they had the live piece, but they actually they distributed you to all the different platforms, the podcasting platforms. Like you had the hard audio, you had the RSS feed, you had the page, you had all the things. And I also think their pricing was off. I think their pricing was too cheap.
They didn't update that either.
They were $25 for as long as I can remember.
Wow. Well, that's another lesson for creators, that you need to keep up with what's happening in the world, because you can't be left behind.
Yep.
How do you do it?
How do I do it?
How do you keep up with the world?
I listen a lot. You know, I used to be a talker. I used to go into a room and always want to talk and kind of like I guess validate myself and show up and tell everybody what I did, because I thought what I did was the most important thing in the world, right?
Okay.
But then I learned, it was funny, more than a couple of years ago, but years ago I started going to these live networking events, right? And even hosted a couple. And what I noticed was, I went to a Chamber of Commerce meeting in Long Island. And in the Chamber of Commerce meeting, nobody talked to each other. They would just walk up to you while you're eating your food and just shove their business card in your face. And their business card, as far as they were concerned, was the most important thing in the world. You weren't even worth a hello.
Wow.
Here's my card. If you need me,
go.
And it was just weird to me, right?
Yeah.
So I started really paying attention to the culture of networking events, and I went to a lot of different ones to just watch how people move. And one of the biggest learnings I got was just sitting back, watching people interact with each other, seeing that whole like desperation of I need to talk to this person, and how people wedge themselves into the conversation.
Right.
Like I watched all of that, and I'm like, that's what I used to do.
You became
and
a witness.
I hated seeing it. I hated seeing it, and I was like, that was me.
You don't resonate with it.
So what I started doing was I came up with a whole, and I actually wrote about this on my old blog. I would watch people. I would watch how they interacted with people. I would listen to what they were saying, because whatever they're saying is important to them, right?
Yep.
I would think about that, and then I would get their information at some point, or I would look them up on LinkedIn or whatever, and then I would hit them up the Tuesday after. So I wouldn't hit them up Monday, because Monday's a busy day. You're getting back in the office, trying to catch up or whatever.
Yeah.
But on Tuesday, I would hit them with, hey, my name is George. I'm sorry that we didn't get a chance to really talk much, but you were, you know, you had a lot of people that were interested in chatting with you. But something that you said stood with me.
Nice.
And I would break into the conversation that way.
Nice.
So now I'm hitting the exact thing that they're interested in, the thing that's most important to them. I was patient, right? I was pragmatic about it. And now I stand out. I'm not a person that just shoved a business card in their face. I'm not a person that was trying to say, hey, me. I came to you, I heard you, even though we didn't talk, but I heard you.
Yes.
And I know what's important to you, and let's talk about how we could take it from there.
For sure.
And that to me, you know, like just observation, just observing the space, and I do that on so many different levels, but that's just a physical example of me walking into a room and just, I'm quieter these days. I'm just like in the back, like, okay, let me see.
It's what experience gives you.
Lo que hay aquí.
Yeah.
You know, like let's see what kind of opportunity we can extract from this.
Well, and I think it's powerful because as you choose to tune in and listen, you're able to then have even deeper conversations. Whereas the majority, I agree 100%. I love watching people when I go network. And it's just like...
I love watching people, period. Just to see where attention goes. Like I could be on a boardwalk, I could be anywhere. I come to San Diego, the marina, I go like, I like to watch.
It's a lot of fun.
I like to watch people because I think that you learn a lot about what's important to them. You learn where their attention goes. So even when I'm in a store, like if I go into a store or a restaurant, I'm experiencing something, I rebrand them in my head. I will sit there and I will be like, let me rebrand this. Let me figure out what, you know. So there's this exercise that I do. I did this with a client the other day. I wanted them to think about their brand differently. So what we did was I said, let's step away from your brand for a minute. All right?
Okay.
And I showed them a picture of piragüero.
Piragüero?
Piragüero.
Un raspadón?
Raspado. I don't know what you call them here.
Yeah.
But yeah, the people who make raspados, right?
Yes.
So ice cream man, whatever. Yeah. So it's a little carrito in New York, right? That they scrape the ice. Yes. It's a snow cone, basically.
Yes.
And I was like, what kind of opportunity do you see if you had to rebrand this for 2025? Like, what do you see here?
Yes.
So we talked, and I had done this exercise with a client because I actually pitched them a version of a piragua card for their business to be a promotional tool. So we went into it, right? What is a piragüero? Piragüero, usually an older man, storyteller, very animated, colorful person from Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, in New York anyway. They actually offer something that connects you to your homeland, right?
They bring nostalgia.
So we started talking about, okay, what does that mean? So what are the opportunities? So long story short, we went into this whole exercise. This piragüero had merchandise, had stickers that kids would love.
Yes.
T-shirts, hats, right? They were a source of information. They would have a hard copy newsletter of what's happening in the community, things that are important to the community, right?
Wow.
And then we had an upscale nighttime piragua card experience that we created.
Nice.
That actually gave people the opportunity to have a flight of different flavors.
Nice.
So you get what I'm saying? So we looked and we updated a 30, 40-year-old oficio, right? And we took that and we created a whole new 2025
business.
And now this piragüero would essentially be getting revenue streams from a couple of multiple different places.
Right.
Even advertising on the card. But to go back to what you were saying about the creator, that's how I would like to talk to the creator. When it comes to the brands and to the platforms, I also want to be a voice for them to understand the needs of the creator a little bit better. So I'm also like reaching out to people that work as brand managers for TikTok, Snapchat, etc., to let them know I have some insight on what you could do to make this experience better, for them to feel like they're valued, for them to be able to produce more for you. And even partner, you know.
Totally.
I feel very disappointed when I see platforms put these great rewards programs together. They hit you with a little bit of money, but then they get 2 years of you chasing that carrot again, right?
Yeah.
So it's just, it's sad. And again, we want to make sure that $480 billion is going to the creators, so that they could be sustainable, so they could be healthy, they could create more, better content, so they could upscale, they could really invest in their businesses and do what they have to do.
Totally. And I think, so something really powerful that you mentioned with this exercise of the piragüero is, which I've mentioned already, is the power of asking for help. Because this client was able to rebrand something that's not attached to her or him or them, and sometimes that's the power of having a coach, is that the coach is detached from whatever issue you're dealing with, and you're able to see it from a different perspective, which goes back to why it's so important to us for help.
Yeah, and the thing is that there's levels, right? There's the do-it-yourself. There's the people who watch tons of free content and try to piece it together.
But it takes them forever.
But it takes them forever. But then there are people who have a coach or somebody who can guide them and give them some framework, but they still have to do the work themselves.
Yep.
And then there's people who can do it for you. And I've been on all of those. And I know for a fact that a lot of the creators, even if they had the money, they probably wouldn't invest to do it because it takes a big chunk of profits.
And culturally is probably not something that is like such a thing. Like in the business world, it's like have a business coach is kind of like a thing.
So,
but in the creator, not so much.
So I had a client that was telling me problem. He was telling me his problem, right? His problem was that he's running a successful business, a coaching business, and he has a bunch of books that he's written, but he never did anything with online courses or any kind of like, you know, whatever. So we talked about some of the options that he had for creating other opportunities for people to learn from him on a different scale, different price point, etc. Because he's a premium, you know, coach. I go visit him in Nevada, and we're sitting at the desk, and he's telling me his problem, and I'm like, you got 10 minutes? So I turned my laptop on. I said, read this, and I put him on camera, had him read a chapter of his book.
Yeah.
And he did everything or whatever, so I turned around. 5 minutes later, I'm saying, give me another chapter of your book. So we uploaded to the system, and I actually documented it. This is actually on my Instagram.
Nice.
I documented his reaction to what I just did. Turned the computer around, showed him an avatar of himself, an AI avatar, reading his book with his mannerisms. I trained it in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Now, in order for me to get a better version of it, I would have to train it a lot longer.
Right.
But just for the purposes of like wowing him, I let him see that. I let him see, okay, so now we could have this whole book on video tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like we could do this literally overnight.
Just
right? We just
upload
have to
it.
do a little bit more training and we could get this done. So I did that for another client, a little bit higher profile client, and we had a conversation. And when I told him what the price was, he's like, well, how much would this cost me? I said, for me to train your team and get everything in motion for you to be able to produce this, about 15 to 20. And he was like, 15 to 20? He's like, that's a lot. I said, yeah, but
How much you're gonna make? What's the ROI?
not even that. Let's take the number of hours that it's going to take you to go into a studio and record it the way you were going to record it, like yourself.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the studio time. Let's talk about the editing. Let's talk about the time away from your business while you're doing this. How much is that? So we did the math. And
it was
my
more than 20K.
my solution was going to save him $70,000. But he was still on the fence. He's still like, man, but $20,000. And I'm like, okay, so then do it your way or lose money in the interim, right?
Yeah.
Turn around like 2 days later, he's still on the fence. He doesn't want to give me an answer. He's like, he's trying to see if I go down. So it's back to that whole like, you know,
Yeah.
I know how long it's going to take me to do, but I also know how much I invested in learning this.
Right.
So like, you know, my expertise is valuable, right? And I'm gonna make you a lot of money. So I make him an offer. I say, I'll do it for free. I'll do it 100% for free. I'll manage every aspect of it until all the packages are up on the learning sites, ready to go, like 100%.
Okay.
And then he said, so how do you make money? And I was like, you're gonna give me 50% of your profits.
Right.
I never seen anybody sign a check faster.
Really?
Because when you put that, and I asked him, I was like, so why did you do it? He's like, yeah, because you're gonna make so much money. So why is that a problem? If you don't want to take the risk, and I'm willing to take the risk, I know how good your content is. I know that if I position it a certain way, we're gonna make money. So I'd be willing to put in the work for that, but I want 50%.
Have you made more than 20
No,
at this point?
Doing that, no, but I have a couple of, you know, again, it's just about, and it's also my time, right? Because right now that's not really a big priority
It's not
for me.
finished.
No, but I do have some interest in Guatemala and Costa Rica.
Nice.
With some businesses over there for Spanish projects.
Nice.
So yeah, so you know, so it's like these are
It's in the
skill
works.
sets. Again, I've always been a person who is very creative, but I also apply my creativity according to what my needs are at the moment, and I act accordingly. So right now, there's not a rush for me to like go out and get these really big clients and do
Right.
that because it'll take me away from what I really want to do, which is Siembra. So, you know,
Totally. I love that.
I go back and forth.
For sure.
You know.
So tell us all the places and spaces where we can find Siembra.
So Siembra Connect is Instagram, Threads, and YouTube.
Okay.
Yeah, like I'm not trying to be everywhere. I want to be where it's impactful. I also know that that the one thing that I've been like, you know, they always say that the rewards are buried in the work that you don't want to do. So I'm in a place right now where YouTube has always been something that I've done for clients, but I've never done for myself.
Okay.
So I'm actually giving it a real go. So I'm gonna do it with YouTube. I don't. Like before, I would be like, oh, access everywhere. So if I would do a live stream, for example, it would be on Facebook, Instagram, it would be everywhere at once. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, I'm gonna grab the audience from everywhere. But because I'm trying to like really promote the newsletter and have the audience, to have ownership of the audience and have that own the relationship, I want to make sure that it's very limited. So you have to be intentional and go certain places to get it.
For sure.
So that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Love that.
Yeah.
And we'll have everything in the show notes, all the links.
Yeah.
So, and this will go on YouTube, so
Yeah.
they'll just be able to click right on it and subscribe.
Yeah.
What is next for you that you're excited about?
I'm excited about getting on a regular schedule with the podcast. I have some incredible interviews coming up that have been committed already, but I just have to figure out the timing of it. So that's the hard piece, right?
Nice.
That's why I need to find help.
Yeah.
Is getting the schedule together. And then looking at people who are currently doing podcasts that are inviting me over, like you, and learning from their process, right? Learning, like, you know, how do you get the information? How do you get the releases signed? Like, you know, whatever. So I really like the fact that you use Notion. Like, that's a plug for Notion. But I really like, you know, to learn, you know, about some of the best practices. Because when I did radio and podcasting years ago, I really did it the way old radio.
Right.
So it was a very different
Whole other
vibe.
process,
exactly.
yeah.
So I'm learning. I'm a student right now. Like literally, I've never been in a position where I'm actually like coaching other people and learning at the same pace.
Which is so key. I think people need to hire coaches that are still learning.
Yeah.
You know, like
I'm enjoying the fact that I'm a student in this, and I'm looking at people, and you know, the old me would have been like, well, I podcasted 20 years ago. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
But the new me is like, no, but I didn't podcast like her. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I really want to learn. Like, you know, so that's what's different about the journey now. I think it's just I think it's a maturity thing too. I think it's
100%.
It's me coming into my own and me understanding that what I do for my community is way more important than anything I could possibly say about myself or my previous accomplishments. One of the things that I said this to my therapist the other day. I was like, I don't want to be the guy that goes into a party talking about the high school touchdown.
Right,
you get what I'm saying?
Right.
So even when we had our chat,
yes,
prior to this, I told you, I was like, I don't really want to talk about all that other stuff unless it's relevant to the point I'm making.
Right.
Because the history is long and there's so many things that I've done, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to what's happening now because everything that I learned and I knew back then, I'm unlearning and redoing a different way now. So it doesn't matter.
Agreed.
Well,
George,
the only thing that matters is like the fact that I'm telling the story.
I love it. Thank you for your work.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me here. It's very rare that I get to sit down with somebody who actually is, I feel as committed as I am to serving a community. And I work with a lot of new creators, and God bless them. If they stick around for 10 more years, they'll be at that level. But you're somebody who I've actually watched consistently for a long time. You've interviewed some of my closest friends. And I just want to really thank you for your commitment to the community.
Thank you.
I look forward to having you on my podcast so people can learn. I'm excited. So I could learn about podcasting through the platform. You know? Let's do it.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sale, mira. ¿Cómo te gustó? ¿Cómo te gustó? ¿Cómo te gustó? Did you like the interview? I would love to know. Leave a comment, share it with someone you care about, you think they'll resonate with it. And of course, if you are ready to go deeper, join the Cafe con Pam Supporters Club. This allows you to access exclusive additional episodes without ads. You can access that by the link in the description. Also, joining the Supporters Club allows our channel to keep growing. We just started this channel not too long ago. And so when you are able to contribute in monetary ways, it allows us to continue to create because you're supporting an all women of color team and our labor is worth supporting. And before we fill up the podcast with sponsors, if you have capacity and capital to support and y ganas, we appreciate it so much. Let's stay connected on all the places and spaces, cafeconpam.com. You see the links right below this video, and tag me on the socials. I love having conversations with you, even in the DMs where you tell me what resonated and even sometimes what didn't. And when you correct me on things that I say wrong, or when you give me your opinions and how we could go back and forth about it and have a, you know, a good grounded adult, I don't even want to say adult, that's why I hesitated, but a connected conversation, it's really good. It fills up my cup a lot when I hear from you and you're like, hey, I found you, or I listened to this and this is what I think, or this that resonated with me. So I appreciate it so much when you take the time, and also for taking the time to be in here. Y bueno, espero que te haya gustado. Nos vemos para la próxima y como siempre, sigue brillando.
Sabrosura pa' ti que